I'm back.
You're back?
It's been what I've been thinking about like pretty much all the time now. It's just like, I want to make something where I'm the customer.
And what is that for you right now?
I don't have anything right now. Like that's where I'm like starved, I think. And like, that's where I think now it's just, I've like, I think I've cut my teeth pretty well and like other stuff and doing other people's work or like doing stuff that worked, but like wasn't exactly what I was passionate about. And now it's just like, the thing that I've like realized lately is that like, I'm lucky in a way that like I'm not starved for passion. And like, whereas like, I think a lot of people are like, I don't know what I'm passionate about, or like they don't have something that they really, really love, or like they don't have, you know, obscure interests that are niche, where it's just like all of my interests are pretty fucking niche. And it's just like, and I realized just the fact that I'm not combining these things that I really, really love with like another thing that I really, really love, which is just like work and business. It just seems so backwards and so silly. And I mean, if you listen to any like great entrepreneur, they all say like, you make sure you're working on something you love, or else you're probably going to stop. And it's just like, I think sometimes I would lie to myself and I would just be like, you know, you can pick out the minute pieces. Let's just say you're working on like in an industry that you're not totally stoked about. I think I would lie to myself and I'd be like, oh, I can just like focus on the marketing or focus on the design. And, you know, I'll find the passion in that and then
apply it to the business. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was like, well, that's just fitting a round peg into a square hole. You can do it, but it's just like, why would I not want to also just really connect from at an emotional level with my customer? Why would I not want my lifestyle to be exactly like my customer's lifestyle, so that when I evolve as a person over time, I don't become outdated? You know, like I feel like there's a lot of like businesses that they ride like a wave or a trend and they do really well because someone can identify the trend, but it's like those businesses don't last a long time. It's like people that really are like, they're like the users of the product, or they shift their focus into solving big problems. I'm not someone that would ever be driven, I think, by solving big problems. That's where I think I need to focus on creating things that I would really like and I can like empathize with the customer or with my potential client or whatever it is. Because yeah, I think I can be tremendously empathetic as long as I can understand it, but I'm not someone who can just apply empathy to random things. Like I'm not.
So true. Yeah. If you don't genuinely give a shit about it.
Right.
You can't. And that's kind of why we did this. So it's called Long Boy, like LONG.
I like that.
BOI, like a boy. So pretty, like you said, super niche. And like the reason why this happened is because during quarantine, like we had this dog. So a wiener dog, and then Marissa started running his Instagram. I don't know if you follow Tino, but like
I do.
She posts every goddamn day.
Yeah.
And it's like a new photo every day. Like just it's legit, people. And out of that, she found like her tribe. Like so weird. Like she has like a friend that she texts every day that she met through Instagram because she had another dog. She didn't even know this woman's name for the longest time. She's like, oh, it's Ruth's mom. She didn't even know it was like what her actual name was.
Right.
She just knows it as the dog's mom. And then they started chatting and then they became really good friends. And then she found all these like fucking dog influencers, but not just dog influencers, like wiener dog influencers. I'm talking 100,000 followers. She became friends with them. So now she has like this fucking just network
of wiener dog moms.
They all love it. So she's like, hey guys, we're starting this brand. Pick a shirt that you really love. We'll send it to you, just wear it, post it, and then boom, there's your distribution. Like you do it within a niche.
Right.
And now I'm really figuring that stuff out where it's like, I love the design of it. And like, I obviously love wiener dogs. So it's just fun for me. It's hilarious. I got to draw a lipstick that looks like dog dicks. And the brand can be fun. I'm just having fun with it just to make it random. Cause I'm not like putting all my eggs. Like this is like the thing. This is like the business that needs to like fucking be huge. It's like, no, just have fun with it. But then out of that, it's like, now I can start like learning new skills. Like for me, I didn't really know Shopify. So I started taking like courses to learn how the platform works. But the biggest thing I just talked about is like the distribution. It's like, how do you get traffic to these things other than just running ads? So I'm actually starting a book soon called Traffic Secrets by Russell Brunson, the guy that did ClickFunnels.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. I know you're also a marketing guy, so that might be something interesting. So that like is little things like that where I'm like, I just want to have fun with it and then learn shit. If I can keep growing and then have fun, I'm set, you know? And then it could be one of many things. Like we talk about it. You can do more than one thing. I think a lot of people don't get that. Even like hardcore entrepreneurs are like, you have to do one thing.
What I've realized though is you can do more than one thing, but you can't save two sinking ships. And that's what I've learned is that, yeah, you can definitely sail two ships at once, but you can't save two sinking ships. And so if you're going to do more than one thing, you better be fucking ready that if one ship starts sinking, you've got to fucking just let one sink, because if you try to save them both, it's not going to fucking happen. They're both going to sink. You're going to be fucking left with nothing. And I think what I really realized is that when you look at someone like Elon Musk, who's done a lot of things in his life, and you try to look at your life in a macro level like that, I don't think it's the worst thing to do, but it's not the best. And I think the reason why I didn't, maybe I maybe put myself in that category too early than what I thought I should have done, is that like Elon Musk had exits, and they were organized exits, and you don't get to hear about that as much and see that from like the headlines. And it's just like, oh, he's doing SpaceX and he's doing Tesla and he's doing this and this and that. And like, he's not, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's not doing all of those things. And so he had like, you know, he had multiple massive exits in his life that gave runway to companies that would have failed if he didn't have that. You know, he just didn't start a bunch of things that were doing $100,000 a year, you know, like there's levels to this shit. And like, mostly all problems can be solved with a certain amount of money. And so it's just like the more money you have, the more of those little problems you can just solve quickly and then keep moving forward and stuff like that. So I think that's what I've realized is just like, I think the next thing I need to focus on is simplifying my life and then looking for a big exit. Like that's what I've really looked at as like, okay, this maybe should be my next focus is, you know, accumulating a good amount of wealth via simplifying my life over the next 10 years.
So would that be through like a venture, like obviously, again, gets kind of startup-y, but like a scalable, either like maybe software or e-commerce or like a brand, but something like an asset that you can sell? Is that sort of the idea?
Yeah. It's an asset that I could sell is the way I would look at it. And the crazy thing is, man, is just like, I was so deep in like the tech software world for a little bit. And that's when I met you, and like, I was still in that world. And then I feel like I haven't even dipped my toes into that lately. But I was just like, maybe that, like, I was thinking about it like recently. It's like, well, maybe you should or am I just running away from the product-based businesses because I'm scared about, you know, like obviously product-based businesses are just hard in their own way because you have inventory and like all those things that can go wrong. But then also software, you have a bunch of things that can go wrong too. Like, so am I just running away from one thing
into the next problem?
Into the next problem, you know? But it's part of me think because like software is so much more infinitely scalable than like a product-based business. Like it's harder, I think, to scale, but it's more scalable, you know, and you can scale to such a crazy amount. I think they're a lot easier to sell. I think they're a lot easier to associate value with in a lot of ways, you know, rather than a product-based business that might not have anything tremendously proprietary about it, you know. Like, I think the biggest question in my head right now is like, I think a lot of times people can get too hung up with like building these D2C brands and trying to give things features when maybe all you need to do is deliver the product, and it needs to be a good product, and you need to message with people, and you need to build a great brand, and like that's all you need to do. Like, change
the delivery method. Yeah,
that's what Dollar Shave Club did. You know, like they didn't make razors any better. They were, if anything, they were shittier, but they communicated in a way that was different, and they spoke to, I think, a certain person, like a very niche person, like we were saying, right? Like that manly man, but also the one that could joke around, and then their brand grew over time. And like if you look at Dollar Shave Club's marketing now, it's so much more dynamic than like the quick hitter funny ads. It's like they had one ad very recently, and it was just about all the types of humans that use their products, and just like the different types of guys, you know, like the manly man, but also like the tranny, and like, you know, like all these like things,
everything,
right?
Spectrum,
and it was still funny in a way, but they did take, and they spoke to different people. So I think what we were saying about like your dog, like Long Boy, it's just like it can grow to be bigger like Roots, but you have to start with like a core group. Yeah,
exactly. And I think that's with everything. I think like people do overlook that. Like it has to be super specific to begin with, like, because you have to like speak directly to them,
and you have to obsess about that one person. But yeah, man, like I mean, yes, like we're actually like we're trying to sell Nomadic right now, and so like if that goes through, well, I mean, yeah, there's one person we're talking to sell it, because it's just like we just don't have time for it, and we definitely had like we just a bunch of mismanagement of cash flow type thing or whatever. It's just like it's just not good, not bad,
So
not good.
better to sell than just fold. Like don't take a
there's still
L.
value there. Like our email list is 120,000 people. Like if a good email marketer just started sending emails, they'd be making tons of money. And like I recently gave up some projects on Vanquish to try to like work on Nomadic more, and I tried to work on it this week, and it was just so hard to work on it. I'm just like, this is where it sunk in, man. I was just like, I am not supposed to be working on this. Like this is not what I'm supposed to be working on. And like whether the company, if I just put some more time into it, would be worth X amount. Because like right now, you know, e-commerce companies are selling for 32 times a monthly profit multiple. Right. So it's like if we scale it up again to where like the most we ever made in a month, I think was like $40,000 or $50,000 US. It's like, okay, well now that's a fucking lot of money. But it's just like I don't have the juice in me to like get it there. Like that was like the reason why we scaled it was like I think it was a little bit of luck and a little bit of timing. But like I tried to work, even just knowing that it's just like I've got 5 years till I'm 30, you know, like not that time's running out, but it's just like I think I got to be more mindful. And it's that thing where it's like, why the fuck would I work on something I'm not stoked about when I've got so much that I'm stoked about, when I've got so much stuff that I'm Googling all the time, and I've got all these hobbies, and it's just like, why does all of my hobbies need to be taking away from work? Why can't some of them be contributing to work, you know?
Or why can't it be work?
Yeah.
Like, man, I'm so jealous of some of those like bigger YouTubers where they basically like, you want to get to the point where you can just do whatever the fuck you want and people will, you have to build an audience, right? That's what I've found, right? That's kind of one of the reasons why I did the podcast. Like, so I can not build an audience just for myself, but for like people like you to come on, and people are like, oh shit, like this guy's doing cool shit. I want to see what he's doing. And I know you have a YouTube channel. Some other people I have on have YouTube channels. But then it's also like, for me, it's like, what am I posting on Instagram other than like, you know, you're with your family, you're going on a run, you're doing that. It's like, what am I like making? What am I putting out there? I wasn't doing any of that because I was too busy working. I
mean, like, yeah, we said this at the beginning of quarantine. We didn't do it about like holding each other accountable for like making some content and stuff like that. And I just, for me, it's always been that, like I've always associated so much security with money coming in, you know, like I think in a lot of ways, it's just like, that's what I focused on because I looked at it as like, not that I could buy things with the money, but it's just like I could buy freedom and like, you know, like that's what I always looked at. So it's like the things that didn't bring in money, they would always hit the doorstep. And I feel like I made a couple good YouTube videos where they're like, fuck, like if I would have stuck with this, you know, like like so many times I've almost built a good YouTube channel, like since I was like in grade 10, you know, like back when I used to like make BMX biking videos. And then, you know, I look back at like some of these, actually there's this interesting one where I used to be part of this like BMX Facebook group. Like back when I was in grade 10, it's like back when Facebook groups were like really like intimate, and I was making YouTube videos, and there's this guy named Adam LZ making YouTube videos, and we were both making YouTube videos, and then like I like broke my leg and had an accident, and that's when I stopped making YouTube videos about BMX, and like he kept making YouTube videos with BMX, and then he ended up transitioning his whole career into now like cars, and like, you know, like I think that's a very common transition for people who are into like biking and skateboarding to then get into cars and stuff like that. So his content aged up, but it all started with him just making BMX videos, and he never stopped making videos, and it evolved with his life. And it's like, well, now he's like, I mean, he's very well off. He's like multiple different, like he has like custom steering wheels with car brands, and like he's like one of the biggest car YouTubers or whatever. And I used to message this guy on Facebook Messenger, and we were both like 16, 16 years old, and we were in the exact same spot. And it's just like consistency and all these kinds of things, and not being scared of being niche and like too niche, because he just evolved with how he was as a person. And that's like one thing where I look back, I'm just like, fuck, man, like that would have been really cool. But I think everything happens for a reason, and
it definitely does. Like you have to figure out, would you be happy?
Yeah, would I? That? I mean, it looks cool from the outside, right? You know,
from the outside.
Yeah.
And also, like, I do believe in diversity because, like, we're seeing it with COVID, man. Like, if you're just doing one thing, let's just say, yeah, but I love restaurants and I have, like, this really niche, upscale Italian restaurant for the wealthy Italians in Toronto, and I make millions. Yeah, in fucking March, you're not. Like, you're done. Right. Like, you need to diversify at some point. I do believe in that, having multiple streams of income for sure. And then, obviously, like, the only way to, like, have that true freedom is, like, through financial freedom is having enough money invested that your money is making you money. But it's always the money issue, right? If like you just have to think. I always think like if money was not an equation, if like money did not exist, like what would I actually be doing? And part of me is like, I would probably just like draw all the time. But then the other side of me is like, yeah, but like the internet, and I have too many other interests and hobbies. Like you're saying, like, I can just Google, watch videos, and like do things. You could do all these things. I think the problem is like we have an overabundance of things and activities and fucking hobbies. I don't know, man. It's a superpower.
The other day, I bought fucking like leatherworking tools, and I started making stuff out of leather because I've been watching these guys on YouTube do all these like cool leatherworking videos. So I'm like, I've been wanting to do it, and so then the other day on Amazon, there was like a leatherworking toolkit. I was like, fuck, I'll buy it. And so like spent like 2 nights doing leatherworking, and then I got the iPad Pro, and it's like, okay, do I sketch? Do I leatherwork? Do I go for a run? Do I go for a motorcycle ride? Like that's what I'm saying. Like I love so many things. And it's a reason why I think I'll never be like tremendously amazing at any of them. But like I'm so fucking curious all the time. And like and then like the other day I started watching more masterclasses, and I was watching the Penn and Teller Magic Masterclass. And like I used to do magic in grade 8, and like I did like the grade 8 talent show, and I did magic, and like I was really into it. I used to watch Chris Angel all the time, and like David Blaine. And I spent like half a day one weekend like learning like a classic French drop disappearing ball trick. And I'm just like, okay, do I practice magic? Do I go make stuff out of leather? Do I go on a motorcycle ride? Do I go on a run? Do I work out? Do I work on the computer? Do I read? Do I draw? Like it's just like
decision fatigue. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've got so much that that interests me, and I would love to get good at. And it's just like, it scares me because I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do it all, like ever. Like I'll never be able to do all the things I want to do. And I think it's a scary feeling. And then it's also like, well, maybe it feels like you can do it all if you take it one at a time. You know, like if I just did magic for a year and then gave it up after a year, I'd be better than
it sticks with you, kinda, if you practice once in a while.
Right. And you'll be better than you ever would be if you just did it like a little bit along with a million other things for 5 years. Like if you just do like one for 1 year and then let it go, and then another for 1 year and then let it go. And it's just like,
or even like 6 weeks.
6 weeks, yeah,
a month,
yeah,
like whatever. That's why like doing courses like that, like even like masterclass, you go through it and like you're done, and you have the skill at the end of it, and you knew that it only took you that long.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not
that's
like a lifelong pursuit.
That's
right?
That's a good idea.
It's a hobby. It's a skill. It's not like something you're like, hey, like I want to be the best at.
Right. That's like, I don't want to be on stage as a magician. What I want is I want to be at a dinner party, and I want to be able to just do a trick without anybody knowing I'm going to do a trick, and then a trick happens. That's all I want to get to. That's the level I want to get to in magic. That's it. Yeah,
I think that makes you a more interesting person. Like you're that person, like at a dinner party that they're like, holy fuck, I know he can do that. That's how you become extraordinary, by doing these kind of seemingly random things that, like, dude, you don't know when you're like 80 that it all comes together somehow. You're like, oh, why would I have to know magic? This magic thing applies to this. And that's how new ideas and products are formed, when you're like, magic applies to like, I don't know, fucking gum, you know? Like,
100%. Oh, well, I could tell you right now how it applies to gum. Because one thing that's getting more and more expensive is Facebook ads. Well, if a Facebook ad had a magic trick of like disappearing a pack of gum in the magic trick, like I guarantee that ad's going to perform way better than, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, you can always pull from those things. And like, that's what I've always noticed. And like, I think that's why I'm always scared to say no to new things, is because there has been times in my life where the project that I shouldn't have said yes to because I had too much going on, but I learned how to do this weird thing on the web, then it connects 2 dots that I never would have connected if I never did that project. You know, there's an opportunity that I wouldn't even have known is an opportunity if I never did that project. And yeah, I don't know, man. It's overwhelming. I feel like whenever we talk, I get to like talk out a lot of the things that I've just been like fucking spinning up in my head. But
that's why we do this, because you have to like almost I always call it like web therapy, but just talking to people does it, because you're like, shit, like I should take my own fucking advice, you know?
Literally. Right? Yeah.
Then you come back, then it brews at night, you brews in your brain, you wake up, and then that idea comes forward in some way. And I love that. Fuck, what was I about to say? Dude, yeah, I feel like more people are scared to say yes. then we are scared to say no, if that makes sense.
So
So
dude,
you're like, we're like, I don't want to say no because I'm like, I want to keep doing like the curiosity and the fun. Where most people are scared to say yes, I'm not good enough, I don't want to do that. Like, well, you fucking learn. The whole point is you learn.
He literally, dude, that fucking like, I'm not a massive Gary V fan, but the Gary V quote that he says when like people are like, oh, I don't know how to do that. He says, oh, it's like old people that say, no, I'm too old for that. Like, I didn't grow up with the internet. And he goes, well, you didn't grow up driving either, but you fucking learned how to do that. It's just like, that is so true on every level. It's like, yeah, none of us grew up driving, you know, like none of us grew up on the internet. None of us grew up, you know, with good habits. Maybe some of us grew up with good habits, you know, but not the ones you fucking die with. You don't grow up with the habits you die with. So yeah, like everything can be learned. And yeah, it's just, there's so much out there, man. And I feel like, I think right now what I'm also like struggling with is like eliminating distractions. Cause I just like, you know, I'll sit on YouTube and watch some like weird videos for an hour. And it's just like, well, I could have made something that lasts. That's what I've been realizing too. It's just like, I want to start making things that will last after I'm dead. Like, even if it's like a wallet out of leather, you know, like I could have done that for an hour, or I could have watched YouTube videos. Like, which one, you know, like which one's more impactful, I think, long term. And it's just like I've been really getting drawn to like, yeah, making, like trying to make things, even like this, like talking, like this will always be here.
Yeah, this is something, right?
Like this is always going to be here. Like, it's always going to, like, whether people listen to it or not, it's going to fucking exist.
I think that's it too. Maybe it's like that anxiety, that, you know, the existential dread that, like, I don't know if you listened to or heard from like Jason Silva. It's like, we're both like, humans are like paradoxically both gods and fucking worms. Like, we know that we're gods and we can create stuff, but we're also worms. We're going to die and like, we're nothing in this universe, you know, technically. Yeah, but our minds are just so infinite. So it's like, and then as the artist dilemma, you just want to build shit, like you said, that lasts. It just will outlive you, whether it's a company or something like. But then also, like, I thought about that too. And then Steve Jobs had this quote, I think I read it in like Creativity Inc. from Ed Catmull, the president of Pixar, where he went into, Steve Jobs became the CEO of Pixar and he invested heavily in Pixar. And actually, he's the reason Pixar became what it is. Otherwise, they would have died as a company, not as human beings. And he was telling us, like, man, like, Steve, like, you make incredible products. Like, you create like the iPod and like the Mac and all this stuff. He's like, yeah, but you know what? My products just end up in landfills. And the problem with innovation is that if you're building a Mac, there's always going to be a better Mac. And the next year is going to be better. It's going to be better. So the thing that you made, he's like, the thing that I made when I'm alive is not going to be the thing that lasts. Like, think about the iPhone when Steve Jobs announced it compared to the iPhone 12 coming out. Yeah. Totally different things, really. I mean, same idea, different things.
Same name.
And we said, then what he said with Ed, he's like, yeah, but you're building these beautiful works of art that are going to way outlast my products. You're building these movies like Toy Story that is just going to go on for generations.
I've got goosebumps right now. After you said that, like, just figuring that, I was like, holy fuck, you're right. Like, yeah, like those things that can just be appreciated by generations. And like,
think of like paintings, like, dude, like, this is the thing that blew my mind too. Like, Leonardo da Vinci never saw himself as an artist. He's like, I'm a scientist. I'm an architect. I'm an inventor building these flying machines. No one's using his flying machines, but everyone appreciates his art. It's fucking weird, dude.
Fuck, I have such fucking goosebumps right now, man. Because yeah, thinking about that, you're right. Like, and even if I might say I'm X, Y, and Z, if I am ever known for anything, it might be something that's completely different, you know, like it might be something that I don't even actually put any effort into, or, you know, the thing that I just do on the side that people might connect with more than the thing I try to get them to connect with, you know?
Yeah, not try to get someone to connect with, just build something that you personally, that your soul connects with. You need to check out, again, I don't want to give you more stuff to go down rabbit holes, but I think it will actually help. I'm going to give you a book, because I bought like fucking 10 copies of the books. It's called The Buddha and the Badass by this guy, Vishen Lakhiani.
Sorry, the Buddha and the Battle Axe?
Badass. Like Buddha and Badass. And I think you would actually jive with it. It's really, I've never seen someone mix spirituality and business like this guy. He's like a Tony Robbins meets Deepak Chopra.
All right.
That's exact. And he has a company called Mind Valley, if you look it up. Marissa and I are going through a few of his programs. He has another book called The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. But his new book, The Buddha and the Badass, I'm going to give you a copy to keep, like just like literally just a gift, because I have a bunch and I'm trying to find people that will actually benefit from it. I think you will. This book literally don't know if I told you, but Marissa doesn't work at Controverse anymore. She's no longer a co-founder. And this book is one of the things that made her realize that that's not what she was meant to do. And she literally just told me, we had a tough conversation, but she's no longer working with me at Controverse. She's like, this is not what my soul wants me to do. And then she figured out what she actually needs to do. And like this book helped her do that. And like, man, it does. It's a really, really, really good, I think, pathway. But yeah, dude, Mind Valley, I've been doing it like maybe 10 or 20 minutes every morning.
I've seen this Mind Valley course. Like, I think I maybe got an ad for it or something.
You will now that you're on the website. Oh,
yeah.
You're screwed.
So is this just like master classes, but with like a little bit more spiritual shit?
Exactly. And then mixing business and stuff. Like there's some pretty good ones. Okay.
It's got like, they got like Ben Greenfield one in here.
Yeah.
How much is it? It's like something like
$500 a year, maybe.
Okay.
All access for everything. So we did like the Be Extraordinary. We're just finishing that up. And then Marissa did a sleep class in there because she was having terrible sleep. And like she learned all these, she's a fucking sleep expert now. She was like teaching me like when I'm supposed to wake up, when I'm supposed to sleep, when to drink coffee. Should I take a hot shower or a cold shower at night versus the morning? And I'm sure she learned a lot more. Like she learned like, and like everyone's different, right? So like he's just talking about your chronotype. So like everyone is different. If you're a lion, I think you're a lion, which means you wake up early and you can like survive on like fucking 4 hours. Remember I was asking him like, dude, how do you survive on like 4 hours of sleep and wake up and feel fucking great, go for a run and you're good to go? Where I'm like, I can't do that. It's just because we're different body types. We're totally different human beings, right? So it's like learning how to like identify, like, know, what do they call it? Know thyself, like really understand what type of person you are. And I think that's what our 20s are for. Our 20s are not for building the things that last. Like Steve Jobs didn't really do that. The Apple II is fucking gone in history. Like it's not.
It's an interesting thing, man, because I feel like often we get stuck and we think, like you need to be building the thing, but there's so many tremendous business people that, were drug addicts until their mid 30s and, who literally shit away a massive part of their life. And
like we're way further ahead than, again, like what's the big real estate mogul? Grant Cardone, like he was a coke addict till he was like 40 or 50, right?
You know what I realized too, though, man? I think a big thing is making sure that even though we start early, and I think both of us have realized a good amount of like comfortability and success in our lives, where I think we don't worry about some things that other people our age worry about, and I think it's a blessing in a lot of ways in the moment. But I think often what can happen, I've realized this lately, is that we can almost can get too comfortable early on in your life because you're like
complacency.
You kind of like, you know what? I've got a good amount of money in the bank. If I keep making exactly how much I make right now, and I keep saving this much, I've already done the calculation. Because we're both proactive people. I feel like both probably pretty fiscally responsible. We know the calculation. We know that if we just continue to not shit the bed, we're going to have a relatively comfortable life. We'll be able to retire with a couple $1 million in the bank if we didn't do anything extraordinary. We don't even I think a lot of people our age, and it's kind of sad. It's that they look at things like retirement as it's like these extraordinary feats, right? Like I think you probably have like some friends that, maybe have like a little bit of a later start in life, or they think, they're maybe against the certain ways society is, built and all this kind of thing, but they look at things like, retirement and becoming fiscally or fiscally comfortable and all this kind of stuff as like this feat, this big mountain that can be climbed. It's like, well, no, it's not. It's just a staircase actually. And you got to plan out how you want to walk up the staircase, but there's no boards missing on the staircase. It's a fucking simple one. You just need to walk up the staircase and not try to take the elevator. Like that's it. Like that's pretty much how you can be financially comfortable your entire life. But with that level of, I think, discipline and like foresight, I think comes the opportunity to become complacent and comfortable. And I think that's probably one of the worst things that could happen. I think it's probably worse than failing miserably, because if I'm identifying it now in my life, couldn't imagine how hard it would be to identify in your 70s, knowing that, you kind of mailed it in from your 30s to your 50s or something like that, for example, But I think because, well, at least for us, like we're aware of it, you have to constantly question. Because again, even I think at the beginning of quarantine, I was going through some kind of complacency, and I was lucky enough to have like good support through like Marissa. So she can, like her and I have like each other a support system to know
when each other are getting complacent. Like you can see it in other people more so than yourself, right? You're like, hey, like I noticed you haven't been going to the gym, notice you haven't been working out, hey, I noticed you've been sleeping in a bit, like, you know, and it's just like, but you have to learn how to constantly check in with yourself. So do you like journal daily or weekly, annually?
Journaling is one of those things where in retrospect, I love that I did it at certain times, but day to day, like not. Like I would say like the amount of times I've journaled in my life is between 100 and 150, like, you know, total journal entries of all time. But looking back at some of those journal entries, I'm like, oh, thank God you wrote this down. And so it is one thing that I would like to incorporate as more of a common practice. I think what I need to do is I need to eliminate all obligation of journaling and make it an option, you know? And I think that's always kind of what happens is that I go, you're going to journal every day for 15 minutes. You're going to say what you're grateful for. You're going to say this, this, and this. And then you miss it for 2 days, or you forget your journal and you go to your parents' house or something, you know, and then it falls off the wagon. I think what I need to do is maybe just leave 2 journals around my house, put one in my backpack, and it's an option, you know? And I think that's how I can actually like stick to it for a long time, because I think it's a tremendously powerful thing to do.
Yeah, that, or like you make it a habit, right? Like you have you read or like, I don't know, heard or anything from like Atomic Habits? Like have you heard any of like the little Cole's Notes versions of it or anything?
I haven't. I've heard it's a good book though.
Oh dude, it's one of those books that like your life literally does change if you do implement this stuff. But like it's simple things for me. It's like to build that habit, I have like habit chaining or habit linking, right? I'm like every morning, well, it's changing and it's like evolving obviously, but I know that every morning I have like this morning chunk that I'm meditating, I'm working out. If I'm not working out, I'm doing yoga because I only train 3 days a week. Because I'm just following a certain plan. Now I've incorporated doing like 15 minutes of this Mind Valley, but then I know that I'm definitely meditating and I'm definitely journaling. And it's either I'm journaling first then meditating or vice versa. But those two things go hand in hand. So I know every morning between 7 a.m. when I wake up to like 9 or 10 in the morning when I start work, I have this chunk of like the things that I know that will set me up for a good day, that I will be happy as a person. That I know these are the things that like I'm happy with. Like I'm not doing shit for other people. This chunk here is for me. I literally block it out like in my calendar because I have Calendly. So like clients and whatever can always book times, but I'm like, nope, this time, boom, boom, boom. And then I just have it as a recurring calendar invite. So I know like, you know, every 7 a.m. I'm working out and then I'm going to eat breakfast. I'm going to meditate and then journal. And then what I did for my journal is I created a Notion template in the database. So I just hit new journal entry and it has all the prompts for me. I know what I'm going to be writing about. Did you use something, what's his name? Thomas Frank just came out with like a new note-taking template for Notion. No. It's really good. It's like he essentially recreates Evernote, but in Notion. And he uses this really cool idea, which isn't like Evernote, and it's that he uses like an inbox. And so you create a new note, which goes into an inbox to then be categorized into a notebook later on. So you know that whole dilemma of always, where do I put this note? Where do I write this? Do I put it in a Google Drive? Do I put it in Notion? Do I put it in Evernote? Do I put it in my phone notes? You just click new note in Notion on his template. You write down what you want to put down, and then you just click save. It's there, and it goes into like essentially a queue, so that on Sunday, or maybe you miss a week, 2 weeks from now, you haven't went through your notes, and it does 2 things. One, you always can really thoughtfully think about where you want this note to live, rather than just adding it somewhere and you forget where you put it. And then also, it forces you to review your notes because you need to figure out where to put them, rather than just writing them down and then never reviewing the notes. So it's a 2-pronged thing that I think is a pretty valuable thing. I just wish Notion had a better iPhone app. That's a better app in general. I mean, it needs a better iPhone app. And I mean, you're not used to this because you don't have it yet, unless you've updated to the beta version. But for Android, we've been used to widgets. So I'm used to not having to open up the app, but I can just go to the widget and just click a button. Like Evernote has a fantastic widget. I hope they do that with the iPhone. Great. And it needs an API, obviously. So these are the little things us nitpicky fucking heavy Notion users
It's still better than almost like anything that was around 2 years ago. Like that's the insane thing. Is like, we're like, I can't believe we just have this, but it's just like, could you imagine like dude,
oh my God, it's beyond anything. But and Roam Research is the other one that everyone's been chatting about, but I haven't been able to get into it.
That's like the map, right?
the networked thoughts. Which I think I would be useful for what like the way we think as well, but I haven't found a use for it yet. I've just been using Notion. I feel like it's the same.
If I'm being honest, like I don't have. I looked at someone used Roam Research, and it was just like, this seems like a little bit too, I don't know, prestigious. Like, you know, like, do you really think your ideas are that complex where they can't be written linearly, or like at least put into like a, I don't know. It just seemed like a lot of like, it's almost like I was going to adapt my ideas to fit in a more chaotic environment. Like, it's almost like I'm trying to project my ideas to be chaotic when like, I don't even think that chaotic. I think I honestly,
if anything, we want to structure it more, if anything.
Yeah. Like, honestly, what I've found recently is, I think it sounds super weird, but I think horizontally, not vertically.
Whoa.
So it's like, yeah. So it's like things like a document that's like that. It's like, that's kind of hard for me to like think about how, because I find it hard to like loop back up, if that makes sense, to connect ideas. But recently I laid out my personal schedule, which isn't my calendar. It's just like my schedule, like you were saying, like blocking off time. And I laid it out horizontally. Whereas like Google Calendar, for example, is like vertical through the day. And if I think about my day, even though that's the way the calendar is, that's the way everyone else uses it.
Like a timeline, like an audio timeline almost, or Adobe Premiere timeline. Yeah.
And it's probably because I spent so much time in like editing programs and editing videos and doing things like where time is a horizontal thing. And I think my thought process is horizontal. And so yeah, I did like my day. And I felt like I had more time doing that. Like it looked like I had more time. And I was just like, and so then that actually made a thought. I'm glad I got to resurface it through this conversation because I forgot about it. But it was just like, well, what else in my life is vertical that I should try to make horizontal? And I was even thinking like things like to-do lists are always vertical.
Shit, yeah.
But like, what if I make them horizontal? Because like, I feel like a horizontal to-do list feels like more of like a quest or a pilgrimage, right? Going from left to right.
Oh shit!
Right, rather than like
just ticking off. Done.
Yeah. It's like, well, that feels like I'm a laborer, you know. Whereas like a horizontal task list, I'm moving somewhere. I'm going somewhere.
Ooh, that's good design.
Yeah.
It's like those multi-step forms, you know, and you can see it on a timeline, like where you're at. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, this is what I was thinking about. It's like, fuck, man. Like, yeah, could it be as simple as just changing the axis in which we display information? That's like, or it could be like a diversity between people of like, do they think on an X time axis or a Y axis?
Have you heard of a chronodex?
No. I got so many tabs open from little things you've been saying, man.
Show notes for this are going to be fucked. I don't know. Oh God. Chronodex.
Okay.
So I tried, it didn't really work for me. I might redo it. It would be great for like a watch app, but it's like thinking about like with like a clock, like a physical clock, like an old school clock with two arms. And then, you know, it's moving clockwise, literally. And then you think of the chunks in the day where you want to do that work, and you think of the tasks in those kind of chunks. You're like, so for like 15 minutes, it's like, you know, a quarter of that hour. You know, you think of that chronodex.
So
as an
you
hour.
know what? You're right. Like, so like breaking time into an hour, a circle is the perfect thing. Because if you try to, like, if you're trying to build something into a spreadsheet, sometimes I'm like, oh, I gotta like make my, you know, sometimes I build out timelines in a spreadsheet for my day, right? And I was just like, yeah, like, how do you 15 minutes, 10 minutes? Just like, well, a circle is much better for segments and percentages than like a block or like a linear piece. That's really good. Fuck. How do we make a linear sphere? Like, it needs to be some sort of like 4D chess type, like time planning tool that's like moves left to right and is circles in the hour.
Oh, dude, that's fucking next level. But I feel like that app could be made. I feel like this could be an app. I bet you it could be technically made in Excel or Google Sheets at first, right? Because I've seen like people do
Airtable or something. Because you have like the blocks that come over and stuff. Fuck. Yeah, man. Because that would be so cool. Like an hour stopwatch timeline, right? That's the hour you're in. And that's what holds your tasks. And then linear left to right progression throughout your day.
The day.
I just have a friend actually we're recording a podcast after this. So I gotta wrap up. But okay, so I think there's been like a lot of good clips in this podcast.
Oh, dude, so much shit. And we can definitely do a part 2.
We could do a part 2.
Cool, dude. Well, actually, one thing, just in case, after all this, what are you excited about? What's something that really excites you, like in the next little while?
I'm honestly, this is super weird. Because I'm usually scared of summer being over. I'm kind of looking forward to fall and the fleeting of season of summer. And the only reason is because now I feel like we're at the end of the summer and all it feels like is like I haven't done enough. But going into fall, I'm excited because it's new and it's different. And I've been stuck in fucking quarantine, even though we've been through fucking winter, spring, and now summer in quarantine. I've got a little bit of hopefulness that, or at least I have a desire to just have something new. So like, I'm excited for the change of colors and leaves. I'm excited to like walk out in the morning and not be cold, but see your breath. And I'm excited for how that might change the way I think, because I think my thinking changes quite significantly season to season about the level of optimism I'm going to have and what I like to work on. And I feel like in the fall, my thoughts slow down a little bit. And so I'm excited about that. Just something new. Different colors, different weather. I've been wanting to travel. So I feel like a change of season is almost like
go
traveling.
Up north a bit and it's like a whole new world. Dude, I couldn't imagine living, honestly, in LA or something all the time and it's always the same. Or just feel weird. I love the change of seasons. Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
And for the winter, I think I'm gonna finally get a car. And so like I feel like my week, because I feel like sometimes I feel trapped in Toronto on weekends, so I just have the motorcycle, so you can't do like weekend trips. So I think the winter, I'm gonna, especially with quarantine and stuff, I'm gonna do like a lot of sort of like weekend adventure trips. And so I'm looking at like getting like a Jeep or something, of like a little bit like an adventure vehicle to kind of like for the winter.
Dude, count me in, because I'm upgrading the drone shroom trip and drones and just creation.
That'd be sick, man.
Well, dope, man. This was awesome. Let's do a part 2. I feel like this was also super long. Like this was like 2 hours. There's a lot, and we could still do a bunch more. So we'll definitely do another thing. I'll definitely publish this one because there's just too much fucking great shit. And thanks so much, Zach. Thanks so much for coming on Meld, dude.
Cool, man. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too, man. Take it easy.